Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max and welcome back to my YouTube channel and some more tactics and transfers from Nottingham Forest. Yes, we are back today to talk about a potential move for Stuttgart midfielder 24-year-old Orel Mangala, a full Belgian international. Yes, of course, as always, we talk about his rise to Bundesliga football as well as how he has been deployed over the course of the last two seasons for Stuttgart, as well as how potentially he could be used for Forest should he join the club for a fee in the region of around 10 to 15 million euros. All that's left to say is don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, especially if you're new around here, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single tactics and transfers video, as well as the return of the match previews coming to you in the next few weeks. With that being said, let's start talking about Orel Mangala and how he potentially could fit for Nottingham Forest. Orel Mangala was born in Brussels in Belgium in 1998 and is of Congolese descent, although is a full Belgian international. He spent his formative years in the academy of Anderlecht, an academy that has outputted the likes of Romelu Lukaku, Yuri Tielemans and Vincent Kompany over the last couple of decades. A very prestigious academy, one of the best places in Northern Europe to learn your craft. And his exploits in youth academy football would see him attract interest from teams east of the border in Germany, spending a season on loan in his youth career with Borussia Dortmund in 2016 and eventually joining Stuttgart in 2017 on initially a 4-year deal. And that's where he's been for the last half decade, spending his entire professional career with Stuttgart, albeit with a single loan move to Hamburg in the 2018-19 season, helping the team reach 4th in the second division of German football. And contractually, as I mentioned, Mangala initially signed a 4-year deal but did put pen to paper on a contract extension in 2021 which will expire in 2024, hence why a potential deal with just 2 years left of his contract could potentially be in around that 10 million euro range. Now, if I'm being honest, looking at his stats, I was not particularly blown away. He completes around 2 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes and a total of around 4 defensive actions per 90, ranking him around the bottom 5% of midfielders for the likes of tackles, blocks and pressures per 90. And if we look at the players we've talked about in recent weeks, they're looking at the ballpark of 6 to 7 to 8 defensive actions per 90. Definitely not an elite defensive player. Now, it is worth noting that his compatriot Wataru Endo does do most of the defensive work for Stuttgart, putting up the most tackles and I believe the most interceptions in that team, but I certainly would expect a player playing in the central midfield of a struggling Bundesliga side to be at least putting up somewhere close to 5 or 6 defensive actions, you would surely think. That being said, going forward, he is actually fairly strong, completing around 2.5 dribbles per 90 minutes, which ranks him in the top 1% of midfielders in Europe, and gets 2.5 touches in the penalty area on average per 90 minutes, ranking him in the top 15% of European midfielders. And in general, most of the attacking stuff he does is through that dribbling ability. It's certainly the strongest asset of his game. If you look at shot creating actions, goal creating actions, by and large, they are coming from dribbling situations, not necessarily beating the press, with a lot of these dribbles coming in the final third as he helps progress the play towards the box. And whilst his attacking numbers are really good, defensively, I just don't think there's enough there to justify paying 10 to 15 million pounds a player who potentially could end up being a passenger in our midfield, even if we shift to a midfield 3. I just don't think there's enough there defensively. We'll talk a bit more about my personal opinions on that kind of stuff a bit later in the video. Speaking of which, let's start talking about how he's actually been deployed at Stuttgart over the course of the last few seasons. We're particularly going to be talking about the 2020-21 season, so not last season, the season before, as this is where he's picked up the most minutes for Stuttgart in his professional career, and also where the most information really stylistically can be gathered in terms of the way they were playing. As you can see, we've got Stuttgart on the tactics board here in the red, playing something similar to a 3-5-2, 5-3-2 kind of formation, and our man Orel Mangala is occupying one of these central midfield positions. Now, when the side is out of possession, it is very much a 5-3-2 that is very focused on keeping the pitch as compact both vertically and horizontally as possible. They're very difficult to play through the centre of the park, and it forces teams to play wide and around them, where of course they're going to be less of a threat. And of course, the advantage of playing 2 split strikers in a formation like this, where you're trying to be as compact, very hard to play through, is that your strikers can then go and occupy the centre backs, cutting off those passing lanes and making it very hard for them to play through you. And if, say, a defensive midfielder went and dropped into the pocket there to try and receive possession, Orel Mangala's job in there is to get forward and make it as difficult as possible for that pass to be achieved. The idea being that you're really trying to force the ball as wide as possible, where there is less threat of a goal. Now when Stuttgart try and build up, they try and use positional rotations. Say for example, we've got the ball out here on the left hand side, we may see something like an underlapping run from the left centre back as the ball goes out to the left back, maybe a ball into the central midfielder, and the idea is that you're going to try and suck the opposition in to a press, which would then create space, say for example here, for a player to receive it in that kind of position. Positional rotations and positional triangle style passes enable you to create space in the centre of the midfield when you get the ball back into that position. And that's really where Stuttgart try and build through the lines, is using these rotations. Now when Stuttgart do get the ball and when they are trying to attack and get dangerously into the final third, they have a real weapon up front called Sasha Kaladzic. He is a 6'5" striker, I do believe, and his ability in the air is fantastic. They don't always look to go long, but having the asset of someone that big up front certainly helps. And when the ball goes into a player like this, you try and hang it up, you're going to have your outside wing back on the opposite side to the ball, trying to maintain the width, which prevents the opposite sided fullback from tucking inside and offering defensive courage, again trying to stretch the team as much as possible, and having the ability to win headers, win the knockdowns, things like that with your striker like Kaladzic offers then third man runs for the likes of Mangala, who can then peel into space and use that dribbling ability to then get into the box. It's a very hard way to explain it, but essentially using third man runs and the width and aggressiveness of the fullbacks and the great hold up play of their Austrian striker enables them to create space and occupy pockets in and around the box. Personally, I'm not too sure on a move for Orel Mangala, but let's first focus on the positives and why a team may want him. Firstly, he is an excellent ball carrier, one of the best as a central midfielder in Europe, and one of the best dribblers in general in Europe as well, and a decent threat in the final third, having about 4 or 5 goal contributions this season and being a threat from long range. That being said, he just doesn't do enough defensively for me, and he isn't progressive enough on the ball to justify the lack of work rate in the defensive third. And personally, I don't think you could play a midfield two of him alongside someone like Ryan Yates, where a lot of the work defensively is going to be placed on Yates. Now, I'm not sure what shape we're going to be playing next season. We played a 3-5-2 last season with that number 10. We may end up playing something a bit more defensive where we drop that number 10 into the midfield. And I think in that kind of specific system where you've got 2 other players doing quite a lot of defensive work, you could maybe see the justification for having him in your side. But I just don't think on his own with Yates, he does enough defensively to justify keeping a place in that team when you've got likes of Marcus Tavernier, Sander Berg, Lewis O'Brien, players like that on the market who do the defensive work, they do the dribbling, and they progress the ball much, much better than someone like Orel Mangala. Of course, that is just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, what you think of Orel Mangala, whether you think he's a justified signing in the region of 9 to 10 million euros. Like I've said, personally, I don't think it's someone we should be going for. I think there's better options in the market, the likes of Tavernier and Berg, who would do pretty much everything better than him other than maybe dribbling. And whilst you're down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single tactics and transfers video or the return of the match previews in the next few weeks. And also let me know in the comment section below who you'd like to see me do one of these profiles on in the near future. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, Reds. I will catch you later.